In this video, I'm going to show you how we can use videos and GIF animations in our prototype to make our prototype look more advanced and engaging inside the Figma, like the one you can see right now on the screen. I will be using the After Effect to make my own animations and GIF animation, of course, and then I'm going to use the Bodymovin plugin and extension in the After Effect to export all the animations that I'm making into the JSON file, and then we're gonna use the Lottie file plugin in the Figma to import our animation and JSON file as a GIF into our design file in the Figma. And then later on, we're gonna use all those GIF animations and videos in order to build our interactive element, which is a CTA. So get sure to watch this video until the end if you want to know how these things are going to work together. My name is Kia, and here's a Kimo. Welcome to my channel. So first of all, I need to prepare the videos that I need to import in a Figma to complete our interactions, to make our macro animation basically. Those videos are going to be the animations that are gonna be played when the user trigger it with a specific action. It can be hovering, it can be clicking. So those animations, I'm going to make them inside the After Effect because I'm just familiar with it. You can use any type of a visual video editor that you are familiar with or you would like to use. So in the first step, I'm going to make the videos and then I'm going to import them inside the Figma. I'm going to import them as a video or as a GIF. I'm going to see it later on. First animation that I need to make inside After Effects is basically the gradient morph animation, which basically we will have multiple colors that are going to morph with each other. Of course, we can make this effect inside the Figma itself directly, and the result is going to be pretty much same. However, I want to show you how we can make a composition of a video and the other element inside the Figma and use the prototyping features to make an interactive element. Let's start to make our animation. So we need to make our composition. I'm going to click on this new composition in the After Effect, and I'm going to rename the composition that I'm going to make to gradient animation. The size does not matter so much in my case. However, if you want to make specific animation for a specific place or element in your design, so it's better you consider measuring the sizes that you kind of have animation that you can use properly for your element. But here I'm going to make one kind of square animation or video, which I can later on use it inside of Figma. Yeah, so the width 1000 pixel, height 1000 pixel, and let's make our composition. In order to add gradient effect, either I have to have an adjustment layer or a solid layer, which I can make them by right-clicking on the thumbnail, on the timeline, and here from the new menu we can make different objects, which, as I said, I would like to make one solid layers, which I'm going to call main gradient. And then you can of course decide the size of the layer or the element or object, and plus the color, which doesn't matter so much because I'm going to add a gradient effect to it. So let's click on it OK, and you can see here that I have my object and layer. Here from the effect section, I'm going to search for gradients. Here from the result of the search, I'm going to select the 4 color gradient and I'm going to use this effect. However, you can make the effect that I'm going to make later on with any tool that you might be familiar with inside the After Effects. Here I'm not going to focus on how we can use After Effects. So let's drag it on top of the layer that we would like to add this effect to, or we can of course double click on it while we are selecting the layers. Then here on the left side we will see the effect that has been applied on the layer that we selected here. We have some properties and some factors that we can play around with them in order to build the gradients in a way that we would like to have. For example, we can move the points of the gradients any place that we would like to have in our canvas, which we're going to use in order to make the animation later on. So we will animate this the movement or the changes in the position of this point, which I'm going to show you later. And of course we can decide which kind of color we would like to have for each point. The effect is ready. We can start to animate it. In the After Effect, we can animate any properties that we are using in our design, such as the transformation properties like the position, rotation, or any other properties regarding the effect. For example, here we use the color, some point to kind of decide the position of the colors, and etc. By just going to the properties that we have here in this example, the effect, and activating this item here, which is the watch basically, the stopwatch. When you click on this one, you're basically activating the keyframe, the first keyframe for that properties. Now I'm going to be able to animate the position of each point of my gradient effect on the timeline here. You can see that if I click on the U key on the keyboard, I will see all the keyframes that I made for these properties, the point 1, point 2, point 3. Now if I move the time indicator a little bit further and then change the position of these pointers in a way that we have kind of a rotation, you can see that we automatically make some new keyframes. And now if I go to the first minute or the first of the timeline and play the video or the animation that we have here, you will see that the pointers are going to slowly kind of move to the position that we set in the second keyframe. Of course, the animation is a little bit slow. First of all, it's because of the performance. You can change the rendering or the live rendering option, the resolution to quarter or something low. In this case, the live rendering is going to happen faster. Plus, our animation is in general slow because this transition is going to happen in 1 minute, which is fairly slow. So I'm going to select all the keyframes, the second keyframes, and bring them all the way closer to the first one. Let's zoom a little bit in the timeline. You can see that I'm going to position them in the 15th second. So in this way, in the first 15 seconds, the points are going to move to the second keyframe. However, it's still slow. Let's move it to the 5th second. Okay, now it looks fairly nice. We can make it even faster, maybe 2 seconds. Now I would like to make this a third keyframe, which will be like this, that we will have again a rotation, 90-degree rotation, which means I'm going to move the pointer to the next pointer, but basically I'm replacing them together. Now I have the third keyframes, and after 2 minutes, I'm going to repeat the same thing basically. 2 seconds. So we basically will have such a animation so far, and at the end I'm going to select all the other keyframes that we had and come down here and paste them at the end of my animation. Let's get sure that it's on the 10th second. It doesn't matter actually, just I want to have a clear timing. So if I play the animation right now, you can see that we have a very nice animation, which the whole gradient is actually rotating 180, or sorry, more than 180, 360 degree all the way around the canvas. We add all the keyframes that we need for this animation, and if you play, you can see that the video is working pretty much well. The only thing that left is that you can see the animation is ending almost around the 10th second, and after that we have no other keyframe, and the video is just long for nothing. So we don't need all these seconds and duration, so we can basically trim our animation. When we trim the animation here, I'm gonna move the all last keyframes on the 10th second. You can also see the time here on the left side. And then you can click on the N key on the keyboard to basically bring this kind of handle of the timeline and select the period of the time that we would like, or the duration that we would like to select. And then I'm going to right click on this selector on the timeline and trim the composition based on the selection. So in this case, we're gonna have all the keyframes here in our animation. And if I play the last part of the animation, and when it starts to play again, you can see that we have a smooth loop. So it's immediately start. Let me play again. So I'm going to start from this keyframe, which is almost the end of the animation. And when we reach to the end of the video, you can see that we're gonna start from beginning very smoothly. So we kind of have a loop animation. So the first animation is ready. We just need to render it out. Now it's time to work on the next animation, which we would like to have some sort of particles exploding behind the button or CTA when the user click on it. So to make that one, I'm gonna make again a new composition. This time the sizing can stay the same, doesn't matter, but I very much prefer to have the exact size in my design, which will help me to kind of come up with a better resolution, with a better animations. And I'm going to be sure that when I'm working on the animation, nothing is going to left out later on when I add it to Figma. But for now, I'm going to just choose the random sizing, a square ratio. So this composition is going to be our second animation. For the second animation, we will have some sort of explosion of shapes, rectangles, circle, from the center of the canvas toward all directions. And they are going to, the opacity of all these objects are going to, of course, get reduced to 0. In this way, they're going to disappear on my canvas. So to make that, first of all, I need some objects in my design. Here in the tool menu, here on top, we have the rectangle tools. If you hold on it, you can see the other shapes that you can make as well. For now, we're going to make one square. So I'm going to click on this shape and hold the shift and make my first shape. Let's keep it not so big. I'm going to increase the resolution of the live rendering right now because I would like to see what exactly I'm designing. Then I'm going to select the layers or the shape that we made and then click on the Y key on the keyboard. And in this way, we can actually change the position of the anchor point of my shape, which is right now here in the middle of the canvas. I can take it and put it in the center of the shape. I can align it to the center of the canvas. Here in the right side, we have this line tab. You can see that this alignment is happening according to composition, whole composition. So now the shape is in the center. It's okay. And then I'm going to open the transformation parameters for my shape and turn on all the stopwatch and make the first keyframe for each property here for this shape. In this way, if I go to the 4th second, I can now animate this element. For example, I would like to change the position somewhere random here, and the opacity I would like to also reduce it to 0. I would like to scale it down a little bit, and I would like to have also a little bit rotation. So now if I go back and play the video, you can see that we have this kind of animation, which is not that bad. It's just a little bit slow, which is fine. So we come to basically reduce the speed a little bit by moving the final keyframes. I see this is still slow. I would like to have explosion filling. Okay, this is a little slow. Okay, now we are almost fine. So it should be very fast. Okay, this is not that bad. First thing I would like to do is that I would like that the transparency of my shape reduce later than the other animations or later than other stuff that is happening to it. So I'm gonna select the opacity property here and then bring the first keyframe a little bit to the right side, and this way the shape is going to start to disappear a little bit later. The second thing is that now we have the linear type of animation, which I would like to change it to ease in and ease out by selecting all these things and then clicking on F9 or the function key number 9 on the keyboard. In this way we will have ease in and ease out animation. Now my animation is ready. Everything is fine. I can trim this layer. What I did was I select the layer and then hold the Alt and then click on the bracket key of the keyboard. So in this way you can basically trim the layers separately. Now I would like to copy this one and use the same thing that we made to make another kind of particle. So I'm going to this time select another position for the last keyframe. So in this case we will have such a animation right now. I can also shift this layer a little bit to the right side or left side to create a kind of more dynamic and random animation. I'm going to copy this one more time and make another basically object. Of course we can also play around with the rotation to make more random feeling. So for each element I'm going to rotate them differently, and you already can see that the explosion looks kind of okayish. We can continue work on it to make better result, but I'm just gonna stop here. I guess it's fine for our purpose in this video. And like the other videos, I'm going to trim the exact duration that my animation need, which is basically I guess around a little bit more than 1 second. I don't like to have this random framing, but for now it's fine. And then right click on this selected area and trim the composition. For rendering the first animation, which is this one, I'm going to use the Bodymovin plugin in the After Effects, which is going to basically render the animation that we have into a JSON file, which later on I'm going to use Lottie animation plugin in the Figma to import this animation as a GIF there. So later on we can use it in our prototype. So I'm going to go to my plugin section, which is I guess in the window extension, and then I'm going to use Bodymovin. If you want to know how to install this Bodymovin or how to use it more into the detail, you can watch the video that I made a while ago about how we can make animation in the After Effects and then import it inside the Figma or the other tools. You can click on the pop-up banner on top and watch that video right now. And then, here we don't have much to do. We can just select where to save the file, which I'm going to make a new folder in my project folder and then save this data file there. And then I'm going to click on the render. There are other properties and settings that you can play around with depending on what exactly you need and how your animation is working. But for now, the render is finished for my case, and I can easily use the Lottie file to import this animation into my Figma. However, before I go to the Figma, I would like to render the other animation that we made, which is this one. But this time I'm going to render this animation as a video and not like what we have done for the previous animation. So I'm going to click on the file here, and then in the export section, I'm going to click on add to Adobe Media Encoder. So we usually use the Adobe encoder in order to basically render our animation inside the After Effects. Yes, so now our animation is in the queue. We can basically decide which kind of format we would like to have. I would like to select H264, and here for the preset I would like to just get sure that everything is like exactly what I use in the After Effects, so I don't want to change anything for now. And then we can click on this green button on top and render the video. It might take a couple of seconds or minutes. It was very fast. So both animations are ready to be imported into the Figma. Now I am in the Figma, and the first thing that I need to do is that I need to import all the materials that I made into the Figma file. Very easy, of course. For the data or the first video, the particle explosion video that we made, and then we exported or rendered it with the Bodymovin extension, I need to open the Lottie file. And when you open the Lottie file, first of all, you need to log into it for the first time if you're using it. But for now, I'm going to click or hover on this tools option in the menu, and then click on the import. And here I can drag and drop the JSON file that I have, or I can, of course, click on the browser, the browse, and find the file and select it. And after you import the basically data file that you made in the After Effects, you will see the animation here as a GIF. And the cool thing is that you also have control on some of the stuff, such as the background color. You still can change it, or you can have it as transparent background. And the reason that I use this approach is that I would like to have a transparent background, and I didn't want to import this animation as a video, because in the video we cannot change anything in that animation basically later on. And here we can of course the speed, increase or reduce the speed. We can change the color of the things that we have. For example, now I can make it orange or any other color. Let's keep it maybe orange, and then we can insert the thing as a GIF into our file, which means if I insert it as a GIF, you can see that we have such a thing. And if I make a frame, let's make it also dark a little bit, maybe a little bit bluish dark. And then when we play this frame, our GIF animation is going to be played as well. This was the first video. The second video is even easier than this. We can just import a normal video by drag and drop the file inside the Figma in our design file, or we can make a frame, and then from the fill section, if you open the setting, here you can switch between different type of the fill or the background. One of them is video, of course, and then you can select your video and browse it in your computer and upload it here from this section. Now both videos are in my design. We can work on our element, which is the button, the CTA button, which has the interaction that you saw at the beginning of this video. So let's get it started. First thing first, we need to design a very normal button, which is basically very easy. I'm going to make one text layer and write down the copywriting that I would like to have as a placeholder, like for example, click here. And then we can play around with the styling of the text, which is for now fine. And then I can make a new frame and apply auto layout on that and add this text layer into that frame as a child layer. Or we can use the combination key, Shift A, which you I guess familiar with it. And the reason I'm using the auto layout is that I would like to add padding around the text and responsive behavior. So I would let me change the color maybe for a second. This parent frame, I would like that the size of it kind of change accordingly to the content that exists inside it. So we need to use the auto layout and set the horizontal and vertical resizing behavior and hug the content. And yeah, let's get back to what we had before here. And we can set some padding for it. I don't know, something random, 24, maybe 32. Yeah, you can decide later. And then we can add corner radius here from the appearance section, something random. Or if you want to have the maximum, just put some 9 next to each other, very huge number. Let's change it to CTA, the name. And now it's time to integrate the things that we have into our CTA. The first thing is that I would like to have this as a background of my CTA. So I'm going to open this style of this video and then use the combination key Ctrl+C to copy this style. And then I will come back to the frame that we have for the CTA, select it, and paste the style here. So now we have the video as a background style for this kind of CTA. If you go to the prototype here, we can say that this loop animation should be played in the loop. You can see this here. Right now it was the loop animation. Now I turn it off. I can turn it on as well. We can also have control on the sound of the animation, any animation that we are using. Plus, we can say that the video should be played automatically at the beginning. Let's add some effects and a stroke to this button to make it a little bit look more kind of fun or advanced. So first of all, I'm going to add a stroke, and then I would like to change the white background for it. Sorry, the white color for the stroke. And maybe I change the size to 4 pixels, and it should stand the outside the button. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add one effect. It can be drop the shadow, which will kind of give a little bit more pop feeling. You can set the specific setting that you would like to have, maybe 24 pixel blurriness, a little bit less opacity, just play around. Plus, I would like to add a inner shadow. Let me just get sure that this is the right one. Yeah, okay. So we can have some inner shadow, and we can add some bright color, such as this red color. And then we can play around with the properties here. We can also put the kind of image mode on a screen to kind of have this 3D effect that you can see right now. It already looks kind of nice, but what I want that happen later on is that when we hover this button, I would like to invert the button, and the background gradient effect should be disappear, which I'm going to show you how we can make it. So this is going to be the first or default state of my button. I'm going to convert it to the component, and then I'm going to add one new variant to it, which is going to be the hover state when the user basically hover on the button. In the hover state, I would like that we have basically a white background on top of the video that we have, plus the text itself should become black, just to have a smooth animation later on when I'm using the prototype panel. And I'm going to use the smart animate as the animation type. We need to get sure that we have all the effect or all the things in both cases, and then I can play with the opacity only. Let's go to the prototype panel, select the first variant, connect it to the second one, and here I can say that how this animation should be triggered and what should happen. Actually, I want to change the second variant, and I want that this animation or this interaction triggered by hovering, and the animation duration can even get less, and we can have also some sort of ease in animation, which is going to be also more engaging. I would like to try the button that we made. I'm going to make one frame, and then from the asset panel I'm going to drag the button into my canvas, and then I'm going to run the button, and it's very cool. Right now we have this kind of gradient morph animation, and when we hover on it, you can see that the we have this hover state, and then after that again we will continue to have this cool smooth transition animation. So things are looking good, but we still need to do one more step with the second animation that we made. We would like that whenever user click on this one, those particles explode around. So that's the last thing. What I would like to do is that I would like to add this GIF layer behind this text and all the element that I have in the button section, and then it's going to be played when the user, or it's going to be appear when the user click on that button in the hover state. After that, for a short period of time, we will get back from the basically click state to the default state or to the hover state. In this way, or we're going to see for a second this animation, and then it's going to be disappear. So what I've done is I copy the CTA that we made and then deattach it from this component. And the reason was that I needed to have another frame to put basically the explosion animation there, and I didn't have it here. So I made another time the same button, just one extra frame. You can see the frame number 3, and then I'm going to paste this animation inside the frame 3 behind the button. Directly put this here into the frame 2 and run the animation to see how the explosion works. Yeah, the explosion is a little bit small. Maybe we can make the explosion a little bit bigger. Just get sure that you're using the absolute positioning. In this way, you have no problem with the position of the animation behind the button. So let's run it again. Things are not that bad. I'm going to make it extremely big. So this frame is basically, or the second button that I'm going to make is basically ready. Just get sure to use, to kind of check the constraints here, because we want to have some sort of responsive design. We want to get sure that if the text inside the button change, we still have a proper positioning for the explosion behind it. So here for the constraint, I'm going to get sure that it's always in the center. Now we can convert this button to component, and then we can add a new variant to it. Even I can rename this variant to hover, and we can change the properties to state maybe. The first one is basically, the first state is the default state, then we have hover state, and then we can have also active state. So we have these three different states. We can just now change the appearance. For example, here for the hover, we can bring back the white background that we choose for a button, and we can of course change the color of the text to black. And then for the active state, we're going to do the same thing. I would like to have the same look and feel, and just the video is going to play in the background. So I'm going to do one more step. In the hover state, this rectangle explosion GIF that we have should be disappear, so the opacity is going to be on 0. On the default state as well, we don't need it there as well. Let me reduce the opacity. Yes, we just needed to have it in the active state, so we are ready right now in active state. It's visible. Now let's do one more time our prototyping. I'm going to select the default state, connect it to hover state, and I'm going to say that this animation is going to be triggered while the user is hovering on this element. And then we're going to change to the second variant. The animation type is on the smart animation, as we had in the previous step. And then in the hover state, when we click on this button, we're going to go to active state. So basically unclick, we're going to change to the active state. The smart animate is the animation type, ease in, and time duration can stay the same, or maybe even less. Here the duration is matter because we don't want that GIF animation kind of play more than one time. We want just that happen one time. So we need to get sure that this duration is enough for that animation to be played. And after this, we need to get sure that we are going to get back from this basically state to the default state after a specific amount of delay. So we don't need to trigger it again by the user. So we can say after, I don't know, maybe 300 millisecond, we get back to the default state. So this delay is also important. I'm going to actually check the animation and get sure that everything is fine, but we can play with this delay in order to get sure that we are gonna see the explosion only one time and not more than that. So let's go to the asset and then make one instance of our new button, position it in the center. I'm going to change the color of the frame to something maybe more pleasant, maybe a little bit blue. And now let's run the prototype. So the button is here. When I hover on it, it's going to be white or get inverted. And then when I click on it, it's going to explode. And here you are. This is the final result that you can see. When I don't hover, you can see that we have this gradient effect. And then when I select or hover on the button, we have basically the hover. And then when we click, we have this explosion. In the Lottie file, when you open the plugin, basically in the Figma, you can go to the Discover panel or Discover tab. And here you can also have access to many GIF thing or GIF animations that you can use in your prototype. For example, here I search for the particle, and there are also free animations here that you can use, also premium version. And here in the particle, you can see that there are a bunch of examples that you can use. For example, in this case, I'm going to select this one, which is closer to what we had in our original animation. And then we're gonna insert it as a GIF. Exactly the same process. And we can copy this one and replace it with the animation that we made, just to see how this one will look like. So just don't forget to reduce the transparency in the default and hover state, because we don't need them there. And let's give it a try one more time and see in our prototype. Okay, this is our button. We hover and yes. So this is fairly the same thing that we wanted to have. We didn't have to even make those animations. So you can use the library in the Lottie file plugin to build such as things that you can see. And that was it for this video. I hope you learned something new. And if it was so, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel right now if you haven't done yet. And like this video and share with the other designers in your community, your friends that you think that this video can be helpful for them as well. And besides this, I have made one new Discord server a while ago, in which we're going to gather together and talk about the design and share our problems and knowledge, and we will try to learn from each other. However, for now it's not so active, and the reason is that I'm still waiting for more people to join there. So I hope to see you there soon. Let's learn together and see you in the next video.